seats up front. I promise we won't bite. So there are plenty of seats right up here.
How are you?
Boss.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Where are we going? Staff only, water. So how are you? What's going on? Well, thank you for saying yes. Next week, yeah. Israel and Dubai. Yeah, so yeah, excited. It's won't be back till May 1st, April 18th. Yeah, it's over 2 weeks. Yeah. I've been to Israel a few times, but not Dubai. Yeah, never Dubai. So yeah. So that'll be good. Yeah, I was honored to say yes.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, thank you. I loved already a responsive, interactive crowd, so we're off to a great start. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Anna Tucker. I'm the executive director at the Framingham History Center, and we are honored to have all of you here tonight. At the Framingham History Center, our goal is to create and connect community through the exploration of Framingham's past, present, and future. Raise your hand if you have visited the Framingham History Center before. All right, a few. Raise your hand if you have not visited the Framingham History Center before. There's no shame, no shame. All right, so it looks like we have some old friends and we also have some new friends here tonight. The Framingham History Center is located on the Center Common in Framingham, and we have 3 historic buildings. We have public programs like this one. We have a 10,000-piece artifact collection that we would love to have you come and explore. And we also have exhibitions. And one of the reasons we're here tonight is to start conversations in anticipation of our next exhibition, which is called Collective Journeys, Framingham's Global Migration Story, 1960 to Present. The exhibition will open this fall, and it will feature stories of immigration to Framingham in the last few decades. And so as a part of that, the most important component are stories told directly by people who have immigrated to Framingham. So tonight, you'll hear from 4 people who immigrated to Framingham over the years, and we are so grateful to them for sharing their stories with us. And this is just what history is. History is full of stories that we share with each other. Some of these stories stretch back generations, and some of the stories just happened today. The story of Framingham goes back thousands of years, and it includes the history of indigenous peoples who have cared for this land and who continue to be a part of the present and the future of this region. The story of Framingham is, in many ways, also a story of refugees and immigrants. Some of you may have heard about Sarah Clay's escaping the Salem witch trials to settle in Framingham. Others of you might have heard of the Irish, Italian, and Jewish immigrants who have helped build the industry, the government, the religious life, and the social life of Framingham since the 1800s. The vibrant immigration history of Framingham continues today, where nearly 1/3 of Framingham residents were born outside the United States, and many more are children of immigrants. So it is so important for us to explore, preserve, and share the unfolding story of immigration in our community. At the Framingham History Center, we explore and tell these histories and stories of Framingham. So whether your family has lived here for generations upon generations, or whether you just moved here a few weeks ago, this means that your story is important to the history of Framingham. Please hold. I should really get a third hand when I'm balancing a microphone. But when we tell stories, we realize they're sometimes hard to tell. So often in our busy lives, we're full of work, we're full of school, we're full of visits to the grocery stores, and reflecting and thinking about the past is often the last thing that's on our minds. And yet reflecting on the past, whether it's a day ago or a year ago, helps us to understand ourselves and understand our history. And then when we share these stories with each other, we create ties to each other. And these ties, in turn, create community and a sense of belonging. And so tonight, with all of you here, with all of us together, it's a rare opportunity in our busy, busy lives to stop and to reflect. It's an opportunity for us to hear stories and perhaps to tell some stories of our own. And I hope through these conversations that we create a sense of belonging with each other and belonging to each other. So this evening, you will hear 3 sets of conversations led by our moderator, whom I will introduce in just a moment, that will then be followed by a group conversation and a Q&A. But before I move on to our speakers, I have to express deep gratitude. We are an independent nonprofit, and we could not host programs like this without our extraordinary sets of partners, including the Framingham Public Library, which thank you, and let's all give them a round of applause. The Framingham Public Library, who provided the space for us, the Framingham Adult ESL program, where I know many of you are coming from tonight, and Jewish Family Service as well. So thank you to all of our partners. Additionally, we could not host tonight without the support of Mass Humanities, who have very generously sponsored this program and our Collective Journeys exhibitions through their Expand Massachusetts Stories grant. So now it is my honor to introduce the moderator and the speakers for tonight. Again, that third hand would be great. So our moderator for this evening is Lino Covarrubias, who is the CEO of Jewish Family Service MetroWest. JFS, Jewish Family Service, is a community-based nonprofit organization serving over 7,000 individuals and families annually within MetroWest and greater Boston regions. They support vulnerable children and families, individuals, immigrants, and elders aging in place. Lino is a first-generation Mexican-American, having been born and raised in Southern California's migrant agriculture region of the Imperial Valley. Under Lino's leadership in the last 14 years, JFS has accelerated reducing social, academic, and health inequity in community members experience financial distress, poverty, racism, and anti-Semitism, especially families with young children and frail, isolated older adults. Lino is passionate about identifying families that have been left behind and providing that needed safety net to allow families to be able to be stable and thrive. And I can personally attest to that passion through our conversations together. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he is especially proud of JFS's work keeping immigrant families from being homeless and providing basic needs to them and helping older adults in the Jewish community stay safe and connected. Individuals served during the peak of the pandemic JFS during the pandemic provided over 90,000 meals and over 120,000 units of toiletries and sanitary products, learning material for children, and information in multi-languages to the community. So as you can see, both Lino and the JFS are a treasure in our community and in our region. Lino will be hosting some conversations with our guest speakers here tonight. And we are joined by Iyad and Hanan Bayad, who live in Framingham with their 2 children, who are wonderful and delightful, and I think in the library right now. Originally from Damascus, Syria, they left in September of 2012 in search of safety for their family and refuge from the violent civil war. They first went to Jordan, where they registered with the United Nations High Council for Refugees and waited for 4 years before finally boarding a flight for the United States in November 2016. JFS of MetroWest, along with community members, welcomed the family to Framingham and supported them while they built a new life here. Their daughter attends Blocks Preschool, and their son is in middle school at Fuller. Ayad is working for a construction company, and Hanan is studying for her GED. On April 29th, 2022, they became US citizens. We're also joined by Jen Griecci. Jen is a passionate advocate for immigrant students, as she herself immigrated from Italy in 1970. Jen worked with Framingham Public Schools as the director of multilingual education programs for 40 years and retired in 2021, which we put retired in quotation marks because I know she's doing extraordinary work and continues to do so. Under her leadership, the Office of Multilingual Education doubled down on dual language education, expanding the number of its schools with the program from 1 to 4 of 9. Now we're also joined by Liliani Costa, which I know many of you know here tonight. So Liliani has served as the executive director of the Brazilian American Center, or BRACE, in Framingham, where she works tirelessly. In fact, she just came here after just finishing work this evening, where Liliani works tirelessly to promote the access of education, mental health, sports, and arts for the Brazilian and Latin American communities in the MetroWest area. Liliani works hard in creating new collaborative relationships in the area to welcome and empower all migrants in their process of integration and adaptation in the host communities. So as you can see, you're in for a real treat tonight. So we'll have these conversations, and then Lena will bring up the group as a whole, then we'll open it up to Q&A. And then at the very end, when we conclude our formal program, we have an opportunity for you to add your voice to the exhibition that will be opening at the Framingham History Center. So now it is my honor to turn it over to Lino.
Great, thank you, Anna. Anna, next time you should get one of these mics. You don't need to, okay. Before I start and invite our first guests up, I just want to say how honored I am to be asked to be the moderator today. First, because I am a first generation son of immigrants from Mexico. ¿Cuántos mexicanos tenemos aquí? A ver, 1, 2, 3, 4. I saw a bunch of little Mexican pins up on the map. And secondly, you know, as Anna mentioned, I was personally involved with the resettlement of Hanan and Iyad and his family, which was an amazing experience for me. I get a little choked up when I think about their arrival. But thank you for coming. And I think what I want to say, and what Anna asked me, is I think when we think about history, you know, a lot of times we think about history being the past, but what do we learn from it and how we apply it to today? Because I think what you're going to find out today, every immigrant story will have a common thread. And I think the common thread will be that the community stood up and helped them. And we got to remember that as more immigrants come into our community, that it's really up to us to really stand up and assist. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Hanan and Ida to come up here. I think they're on this side, or it doesn't matter, whatever side you want. And I've got a few questions. I think some of the questions are really going to lead to just that common thread I talked about of, you know, the initial experience. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have both of you, and you said yes. And can you just talk about your initial experience? You know, you were refugees from the United Nations the High Commission on Refugees, and you were finally able to come to America. You could have gone to Canada, you could have gone to Holland, but you came to America. And one thing to note with refugees, it's not your choice. You don't choose, I want to come to America, I went to Canada. It's you're on the order of being a refugee, you get picked, and that's where you go. Most people don't know that it's not your option. But first of all, what was it like to come to this new land, to America? Tell us about your initial experience. It's on.
First, when we came to the United States, everything difficult. it's a new life. We worried about everything in United States because we lived in Jordan about 4.5 years. It's not life. I tell you a truth, it's not life. Because also people say, you, this is a refugee people. When we came to the United States, the last airport we rode, we cried. It's a new life. We didn't know anything about our life here. When we say first Lino and also Arabic women, she wore a hijab. She gave me a hug. Hanan, welcome in the United States. You know, I saw my life in United States. It's so easy. It's everything beautiful. Just because I saw a woman wear a hijab and she gave me a hug, Lino and also another people say, welcome in the United States. Everything I think it about, it's done. I think now about a new life. Everything I don't know anything. But now I'm right in the right way. Everything good, health, people. When we came here, the people say, welcome. When we rode to take my kids to the bus, they say, smile, welcome. This happened, it's nothing in our country or in Jordan. Just say, oh, refugees, go back to your country. But here, really, we love the love here and we love the people. Just when see the people smile in your face, oh, everything good here.
Now, something, it's a question for you, Iyad. Iyad came here, he had, suffered some injuries in the war in Syria. Can you tell us about that experience? Because I so clearly remember when you first got here, and the very first thing we wanted to do is really give you care, medical care.
I was broken my body, all my body. I in Jordan, I stay in my bed like 6 months. I can't move anywhere. When I move, I work for $5 in pharmacy, like for just one day. My rent home is 150 GD, like
GED.
dinar, $200, like $200. I work for about $5 in one day, every day, every day. But I can't work more. After 5 years, as the United States, when I came into the United States, um, direct to hospital next day or next 1 week to Boston Hospital. They give me all I don't know in شو بدنا نقول بالانجليزي خذ احكي عنه شوي. She speak more than me English. I don't know.
You're good. Doing good. You're doing good.
Yeah, very good care of us. Um, uh, every doctor look at me to my body where is have any problem, and they everything is very good right now. But I have a little bit, but everything is good. And we think about when we come here, is the Jewish Family Services help us very good help, and we think about other people is they stay in our country or near my all state near my country. Yeah.
And that was good. Thank you. And one of the things I remember so clearly, but Iyad, the doctors would say, how is it possible you must have a lot of pain? And Iyad would say, everybody has pain because, you know, in Jordan and Syria, you don't get painkillers when you're hurt. And the doctors were like, it's amazing. This guy is so resilient. He can do anything. And I think that was one of my big takeaways always, that when immigrants do come to America, they're so resilient. And my next question is going to be about your children, because I remember Mohammed at the airport. Mohammed was, what was he, 6 years old? 5.5, and he spoke only Arabic, and he was able to really like assimilate and become part of the community. Can you talk about your children, how what the immigrants' story has been with them, their travels within the community?
When we came, Muhammad, he has 5 years old. When we rode the airport, he is sleeping all the time. Not sleeping, but he has a coma with the airport. When we came here, he just tired because probably 24 hours, because we take probably 3 to 4 airport to come to the United States. Probably next 2 days, when we came here, we took Muhammad to Framingham Public School to take a test if he know anything about English. And he go to Brophy Elementary School.
And he quickly adapted.
Yeah, he is very quick damage with another kids. Yeah, it's difficult the first year probably and the second year because he didn't understand anything. They talk around him. He didn't have anything to talk with his friend. He came to home. He cried. I didn't understand. But now he spoke English. When you talk with him, you say, this is not Arabian people, this is an American people. He speaks a lot of English. Yeah.
Thank you. I know we have a couple more minutes because we have 10 minutes, and then we'll talk as a group. What do you think was the most important thing for you that's made you successful? That you think, when you think about what's the most important thing that, as an immigrant that came here, really helped me?
I think nothing more than you do it for us. You do a lot of things, everything to the family when we came refugees, for my family, for another family. You do a lot. I think nothing can do it to come up best. You are the best right now.
And what we had for the Syrian Humanitarian Project, we had a whole community response. We had volunteers, we had faith leaders. It was an entire community that responded to help them, because you just can't do it alone. An organization can't do it alone. And I think that's one of the things that we continue to learn with immigrants that come here, that it really takes the community to make it successful. And you're a really good example of that.
Yeah, when we came, no volunteers the first 3 months. Just this woman I told you about, her Nermin Hilali. She do hard so much for me. She bring me to every appointment, doctor appointment, to government, any appointment. And they help us a lot. And right now, we are a family with the Jewish Family Service. Not just they are bring us to the United States. No, right now we are a family. We are text us probably every couple months, but we know a lot of everything about us.
And then Hermine Hilali was she was a culturally appropriate person that we hired that spoke Arabic. She was Egyptian and also was a woman that wore a hijab. And I think that when she first saw that at the airport, made you feel comfortable that it wasn't such a strange land after all. Great. Thank you. All right. You guys can have a seat. Yeah. Come up, Jen. Wherever you like. Yeah, we'll sit there. Yeah, shift cameras. This is my better side, by the way. um, and now as we kind of, with Hanan and Iyad, they were just arrived in 2017. With Jen, you've been here since 1970.
Yes,
So,
this is a long time ago.
So you have a lot of experience as somebody who came here as an immigrant from Italy.
Right.
And I will definitely ask you the same questions, but then more so because you've been here much longer. What was it like when you got here? And you were 12 years old, I believe, when you first got here.
Yes, so when we came, I was 12 years old, and there were 9 people that came our family. So along with my parents, my brother was 8 years old, and my sister was 3 months old. My grandmother also came, and an aunt and an uncle also came. So it really was the dream of my father to be reunited with his brother, who had been here since the 1950s. We waited, in those days, there was a quota of Southern Europeans, and so we waited for 8 years before we were able to get the okay to come. And my uncle sponsored all 9 of us. And as a sponsor, he had just recently arrived, less than 10 years before, but as a sponsor, he was responsible for finding us a job, for making sure that we were in school, taking us to our appointments. Remember, in 1970, there was no Jewish family services. There was no brace. It was very much a community, family building. We had an uncle who was able to, find us places to live and food on the table. And we were really extremely fortunate. Not only that our family was able to finally be reunited, but also that my uncle had really taken the responsibility of finding jobs for my father, of making sure that we were, in an apartment that we needed, that we had everything that we needed. But my story really is the story of a young girl who shows up at school one morning. And there are teachers who really don't know what to do with this young girl who, in Italy, I was a very interested in learning, in literature, in everything that was educationally, I came here and I didn't know anything. I came here and again, teachers really didn't know what to say. I couldn't communicate. There was no one who spoke Italian, or there were no teachers. So I think the first year of my life in the 1970 to 71, basically it was my resilience and my perseverance, and I came to, after the day was done at school, sitting in the back of the classroom and just printing my name over and over and over again, because my name changed from Genoveffa. Well, that's too hard to pronounce. Let's call you Jennifer, right, with a J, as if, anyway. But I think coming to the library, the Framingham Public Library, in those days, it was at the old Danforth Museum. Really, that's when I went downstairs to the children's section, and basically I learned how to read in English using picture books, because that I wasn't being supported in schools. And so I think that was before chapter 71A, right, where you had to really support students who came from other countries. So that year really was a defining moment in my life, because I said, okay, if I can get through this, I'm going to change for other students, so that they don't have to go through what I went through that first year. There's a lot of other things, but I
Yeah.
don't want to keep talking about
No, very
myself.
good. No, that's very good. I think I liked what you said. We're trying to figure out common threads. Resilience is really important. What do you say to new arrivals, new immigrants that arrive, based on your experience? And you know now you've been in the community for 30 years. What can you provide an advice
Right.
for immigrants?
So Framingham has been my home since 1970. I went to college, and then I was really fortunate enough to be employed by Framingham Public Schools as an ESL teacher. And those of you who know me, I retired as the director of the multilingual education program. I think for me, the thread all of these years has been to support students, to help students, newcomers, students who have just recently arrived, students who really said, well, I don't have money for a college education. Well, let's find out. The ESL teacher and the department and the programs that we've established in Framingham really have been so defining for a lot of students who have gone on to become doctors and lawyers and teachers and and dispatchers, and they amazing. And I think I used to get a lot of from other colleagues saying, well, you can't nurture these students are not your children. And I said, while they are under my care, these students, I will support these students and help these students the same way that I would do one of my own child, right? And I think I've been very fortunate, and I thank my lucky stars that I was able to really make a difference in the lives of so many students over the course of my career here.
Thank you. As an educator, I have to ask you this because you were an educator for many years. Can you comment about history? What do you think is really important about taking the history of the past and making it relevant to now?
It's extremely important because we cannot move forward unless we know where we've come from, unless we know what our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, and what they went through, And I always say that the American dream is just that. It's an American. It is a dream. When you're in other countries, you think of America as the land of opportunity. You think of America as I can make it. However, the reality is very different when you come here. And so the reality is that people have to work under very extenuating circumstances. People have lost their lives building railroads or building homes. Unless you have a true understanding of that piece, you really cannot be so wide-eyed and say, oh, this is the land of opportunity. You need to work really, really hard. I always find that as a woman, as an immigrant, I always had to work twice as hard to ensure that, that my advocacy for immigrant students and for immigrant families, was really, where, what I wanted, to make sure that they knew to communicate. So history is everything, and so I'm so glad that this is really happening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I remember this is something I loved so much growing up, that our families were always working. I grew up, as Anna said, in an agricultural region in Southern California, and we were always working, seasonal crops, whatever, we were always working. And that's what you did. You always worked. And and for me, it was a great experience because I got to learn so many things about not only the roots of my family, but also other people, why they came here. And one thing I remember clearly, they always said, I'm doing this for my children.
Right.
I am working very hard for my children. I am an immigrant, and my education level is a certain, and I know my earnings only a certain level, but I'm working really hard for my
And
children.
as educators, especially throughout all of these years, we always make sure that whenever we had events, it would be at a time when our parents and our families could come to the events. So, so we always make sure that we would have events in here in the costume room, with translations and with refreshments, and so at a time when parents were able to attend. So the outreach to our families is something that I'm also very proud of, because from my experience, where my parents never came to my school, never spoke to my teachers. It was my ESL teacher who came to the house, the earliest home visits, right? Now it's all the rage. But the earliest home visits in 1975, the ESL teacher came to my home and told my parents, your daughter can and should go to college. Right? Because that was not in my parents. They were busy working and they were busy raising a family.
That's right, right.
So.
Well, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
We'll have you back. Liliani, you're up. Well, I know Liliani so well, the work we've done together in the community. I know of no better advocate for immigrants than Brace, really.
Thank you.
Like everybody else, I start with the first question of what was it like for you when you first came to the U.S.? How old were you, by the way? And what?
I was 32 years old, married with 4 kids. The oldest was 13 and the youngest 5. And I can't say I have some difficulties, because my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they came to US in 1980. We had a family here to help us with everything. My first job was at Dunkin' Donuts, okay, for 1 month. After that, I went to work with my brother-in-law at the Brazilian bakery, the first one who was open in downtown Framingham. Today is Marão Lanches. That was the first bakery here.
Somebody likes it.
Yes. And I think we as immigrants, we always come for the same reason. Everyone wants to have a better life. This was my goal, to give to my kids a better life. And I'm very proud of that. I did. Okay? My 4 kids, they are graduated from college. Everyone choose your own path. And my oldest daughter, she went to college without documentation. Okay? There is a myth on the community. They say, if you don't have papers, documentation, your kids can't go to school. This is not true. They can go, okay? My oldest daughter did that. I think 1.5 years before she graduated, she got the green card, okay? We came here with visitor visas, and we stayed for 25 years now. I always tell people, don't worry, your situation can change over the time. Our changed, okay? We got the green card in 2005. In 2010, 11, we became a US citizen, everybody in my house. We don't live in Framingham anymore, but we used to, and I work here. I can tell I live here for 25 years because I just go home to sleep. My oldest daughter, Jen was her teacher, and she was the first Brazilian that the Framingham police hired to be a dispatcher. Sorry. I trying to get there, people. It's difficult, okay? Today she is director of Nashoba Valley Dispatcher Association, okay? My second daughter, she has a master's in health administration. My third one, she is biochemistry. And my youngest, my baby, who will turn 30 this year, he is a restaurant owner in Marlboro. And his studies was in Framingham State University. He did marketing, and he loves what he does now. And I am a mother, very, very proud of my kids, okay? When they finish the college, I think, well, what I will do now, I don't have nothing to worry me about anymore. That's when I start to work at the Brazil American Center, okay? Until there, I was a house cleaner. I cleaned the house for a long, long time to support my kids, okay? And after that, I didn't nothing to do anymore. I went to Brazil American Center, and I'm trying to help people who comes here. And if I can give you some advice, the immigrants in here, learn English. These can open doors for you guys, okay? When my kids are growing up, I use them to translate to me all the time, okay? I was so afraid to pick up the phone because I couldn't understand nothing at the phone. This was my nightmare over the years. I lost this a few years ago, not too much, okay? And the people who knows me from this time, like Jen, Christine, Lino, until few years ago, I couldn't be here talking to you in English because it was so hard to me to do that, okay? But this is life. I love being here. When we came, I know I couldn't give a good life for my kids in Brazil. I came here to do that, and I did.
Wow, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liliane, for mentioning how important languages and English, because we do have Framingham ESL here. I saw a lot of nodding, so hopefully study hard. And I think that's what we always say, that English is really important. You don't have to lose your native language, and it's important that your kids get that language as well, because it's a free language. I'm so glad that my parents taught us Spanish, because some of my cousins who lived in different parts of California, my uncles or aunts decided not to teach Spanish in the household. And they can understand it, but they don't speak it. So I think it's, when you teach your kids, you know, you're an immigrant and you can teach your kids that language, it's a free language for them. So you should do so. So, all right, you're gonna stay here, we're right on time. We're gonna have you, I'll come up here. I think I'll shift this way. All right, there you go. Actually, Jen, you can sit here. We're right on time, Anna. Wow, we're good. I must have been in the military. This is a really time, I think there's a common thread, and I really want to have some time for questions because I think that's really going to bring, you know, the most out of our discussion today. But I think one of the common threads was, in fact, working hard, right? I think everybody talked about when you get here to America, you work hard. And even, right, everybody here, raise your hand if you have to work hard, right? Whether you're an immigrant or not, right? You got to work hard, right? We say 2 households have to work, right? Life's expensive. And something I always remember, because we work with so many immigrants from all over the world, they're surprised when they come to America and say, it's really expensive here, right? I remember you, when you first come here, you go, what? A soda costs that? A soda is really cheap in Syria and Jordan. It's different. So one of the really important things, I think, is this whole concept that you have to have not one job, but multiple jobs, right? And I think the question I want to ask the group, because we are working so hard, and you mentioned this, Jen, today, that your parents just didn't have the time to be involved with school. So if you can just share of what's really important, how do you get around that, right? If you're an immigrant that's here and you're working really hard, you have children, but you know, you need to be involved in their school. What are ways to get around that?
I think one of the reasons that immigrant parents are not as involved with school is, first of all, they apart from the work and they're busy raising a family and working. I always felt that it wasn't a welcoming environment. You know, in those early years, we've changed that in Framingham under my leadership and Chris. I think it was, there was a sense for my parents coming to school meant, what have I done wrong? What has my child done wrong? And the one time that my mother went to see my brother at the old Roosevelt School, we live in the Italian-American community still, but at Roosevelt Schools, it's a park now. My mother saw my brother in the corner because he wasn't able to communicate and he wasn't able, and I think that made such a deep impact on her that she said, I'm never going to go back to that school again. And I think that, you know, as educators or as parents, you know, we have a responsibility of making our schools welcoming to our immigrant families, and that means, you know, reaching them and meeting them halfway. Yes, we are in America, and we have a responsibility of learning about the American system. However, we need to meet, especially with our newcomer families, we really need to meet them halfway. And we've had lots of events at Brace or at the library because sometimes, you know, parents couldn't travel to all the different schools that are mostly on the north side. But I think, you know, I think we've done leaps and bounds. But I think that one of the reasons is that we need to do a better job of welcoming families.
Great, thank you.
And the ESL adult program is amazing, by the way, so of doing this, yes.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was very common to all your, and we're doing a reflection, is this notion of support. That in your case, you had family here. Leanne, you had some family here. You had a community, and you had an agency that helped, right? That in the end, you have to have support, right? You can't do it on your own in the US of A, that you need, whether it's family, whether it's a cultural community, whether it's an agency, that you really need everybody. You know, we always say it takes a village, but it is true that it, in fact, takes a village to make the immigrants successful, because we were all immigrants. Unless you're a Native American, right? Everybody came from somewhere else in this world. We have 10 minutes for Q&A. Vamos a hacer preguntas, pueden hacer en portugués, en español o inglés. But you're Framingham ESL, so we prefer it in English. But it's okay, you can do any language. But if you get stuck, you can, it's fine. So preguntas, questions that you may have for these great people we have up here tonight. Yes, sir.
What is the restaurant in Marlborough?
Labaredas. Labaredas.
I go there all the time.
Labaderas. Aha. All right, so we got a food question. That's good. Yes.
How does Jordan compare to the U.S. in terms of welcoming refugees? Is there something Jordan does better than the U.S. that we can learn from?
I think nothing better than US. The life in Jordan, it's so hard because we are refugee over there, and the people Jordan people doesn't need the refugee work over there or go to school. I remember my friends, the kids, when they went to school, they went afternoon. In the morning to the Jordan people kids, and afternoon to the refugee people.
Other questions for our group? Oh, you're all right. Keep it coming. It's.
How does Framingham's ESL program rank against other area? The Framingham School's ESL program rank against the rest of Massachusetts?
So I think Framingham is well known in the state for working with linguistically diverse students, multilingual learners, not only through their ESL programs, but also because we are able to offer dual language programs and transitional bilingual programs. And so the state of Massachusetts many times has used the Framingham Department of Multilingual Education as sort of as a model for other districts to be able to start, programs for their students, for their English learners. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. No, but as a parent, you can talk about the bilingual.
Liliane.
When my youngest son went to school, the public schools in here, they had the bilingual program. He learned Portuguese first, but he could speak English like the American, because he was 5 when we came here. Because we talked to him all the time in Portuguese at home, he went to the bilingual program. That was great. My son today can speak and write in Portuguese and read because of that. This program doesn't exist anymore.
So it's giving parents options, right? So we are not a one program stop for our bilingual and multilingual parents. We in Framingham, there are options. So the transitional bilingual program is one of the options that, as a parent, Eliani had. We also have English as a second language programs that all students need to take classes. And in the last few years, we have doubled the number of dual language programs. This gives opportunities to students who are from other countries to be in classes with American students who want to learn Spanish and Portuguese or Portuguese. You know, in Framingham, there's dual language programs that we have. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for students on both sides, both from other countries and for, you know, our American students to be able to learn, you know, from each other, about each other, and this is amazing. Again, these are options for parents, right? And so it's no longer, well, this is it, and this is the only thing that, you know, this is the only way that you will be able to learn English. You are able to learn English and keep your culture and learn, you know, how to speak, read, and write, you know, in either English or in Portuguese or in Spanish. If you look at Barbieri Public Schools, it's been in existence since 1990 as the dual language program and still going strong. And I was so very proud that we started the dual language programs in Portuguese at Potter Road, at Harmony Grove, you know, and also at Brophy, and I was there when your son came, right? I was there when your son came, and Nerman was amazing and is amazing, and so again, it's been inclusive and been accepting of all cultures and traditions, and this is who we are. This is America, and you know, in as soon as we understand that, you know, all of us, it is, you know, it is what's needed. And when we came here, the first thing that my parents did, they went and signed up for ESL classes at Barbieri School. So
We have a few more minutes for one or two more questions. Yes, sir.
I was very interested in the, see, in cultural, what should I say, culture shock. You know, there is a term, culture shock. So besides the language, there is a huge difference in values and other things. So I was just wondering if anyone wants to reflect on the culture aspects.
Great question. The question is, America has different cultures. Can you talk about what was that like when you come to America and there's different ways of doing different things? If anyone wants to comment.
I think nothing different. In our country, we have a Muslim, we have a Jewish, we have everything, and all the people love each other. Here, just the different. I told you, the people smile on your face all the time. In our country, when you rode in your way, all the people absent, and I don't know why the people make us smile or something in emoji in his face, but here everything difficult, not difficult, different, and the people here love each other. But about the culture, nothing different.
I mean, one thing I would say about culture shock, I think parents and families try to keep the traditions and the culture of their countries and of their language and of their languages. There comes a point as children get older and they become more Americanized, that you're living in two worlds, right? You can speak. They're living in two worlds, and so parents try to retain all of that culture that is part of who we are, right? But then as we are learning to live in this country, you become really, I want to use the word Americanized, but you're open to different other cultures and different other languages, and I think there's a push and pull in the home. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
I'd like to speak for the library. I hope you all know we have a literacy program here that actually I wrote the grant for years ago. I'm a library trustee here, and I'm very proud that we are able to work with the History Center and all of you. We have a lot of tutors here. There's one right over here in the corner close. And if you want help with any language, we are here to help you. Right next door here. So let us help too.
Great. All right, I think we have one more question, and then I'm going to turn over to Anna to close it out for us.
Hi, everyone. I'm also a library trustee like Jen. I'm the vice chair on the library. And I'm also not from, didn't grow up here, but I came here when I came to go to college at UMass Amherst. The one barrier I didn't have was the language, the English language, because English is my first language in the Caribbean, but there is a culture shock, and the biggest one for me was the weather, was the winter.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm still like trying to wear dresses when it's cold, and that was the hardest thing for me, honestly. I think I came here young enough where I was so naive that it was really easy to kind of learn the culture and everything else. But I'd like to share with you one of the things we're doing at the library. I advocated for us to get some welcome signs at all the libraries in multi-language. So that's coming soon. We're not sure when. We're going to try to put some inside and eventually get some permanent signs so everyone can see their language written like welcome on the outside of the library. So I just like to share that with you. And thanks for the program. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our incredible speakers, to Lino as well, and all of you for being here tonight. Thank you. I know that it's such a busy time and we have so much going on, but just taking a moment to think and reflect. And I hope some of the Lino's questions that he asked tonight, you can ask of yourself. You can ask of your family, also when you go home as well. So again, can we give a round of applause to everyone up here tonight? It's no small thing to get up and speak to a packed crowd here. And so I really want to thank all of you here. So on behalf of the Framingham History Center, these are the stories that we want to preserve, that we need to preserve, and that we want to share as well. And as I mentioned, we have an exhibition that's opening up in the fall. And your voices need to be a part of that exhibition, your stories, the experiences that you've had as well. And we've also said we match tonight, so we coordinated specifically for this. And so as part of that, in the last few minutes after the formal program has ended, please share your story in the back. There's the map. There's the timeline that's so important. There are the opportunities on a Post-it note, just to write a few words down. And at the Framingham History Center, we would love to see you. We are out and about the community, but we welcome you, and our doors are open at the Framingham History Center, and you belong there. And we really, really want to see you there tonight. I'd also like to give a thank you to our incredible staff, volunteers, and board who are here. So if you don't mind raising your hand if you're part of that group. So Stace and Christine, Susan, Leslie, who just spoke, Allie, Doug, Mauricio in the back. So I just want to say we have an incredible team, and we're so excited to get to know you and hear your stories more. And in the fall, please join us for an exhibition that you're creating with us. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you more.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You got it in, Mia. Thank you so much. Let me turn off my mic.